Hi everybody, welcome to Sama Salish Music and Art. I am right now a rain shadow recording in Fort Warden, Port Townsend. We are in day 2 of the Think Festival, and we're honored to be back here with our Seattle Theater Group doing fabulous work, presenting artists from all over the world and the United States here on the Olympic Peninsula. I'm here with Barbara Lawrence. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Tribal storyteller from the Suquamish Tribe. Barbara, tell us about yourself, please.
Well, born and raised on the Suquamish Port Madison Indian Reservation. That's on the Kitsap Peninsula. My tribe is the Suquamish Tribe, and that's the tribe of Chief Seattle, who the city of Seattle is named after. It's a small reservation, 8,000 acres, and there's about 1,200 of us now. And I spent my life there unless I went away to college or to work for another tribe, but really Suquamish is my home.
That's your home?
Yeah.
Does it feel like home? Is it one of those you're away for a while and when you come back you feel like this is where I need to be?
I think reservation Indians are really tied to their place. I mean, seriously tied to our place. We were, from our language, our stories, our family, the very tight-knit group of people that we are. And, we can travel the world and but still have a need to be home.
Okay. We're learning a lot more about indigenous communities. Often they were just, in the 60s, 70s, it was Indian, it was one thing. Obviously, we knew about the various other tribes, Apache, Crow. The Coast Salish people are incredibly complex. As we just said, they're tied to the land and to the water is especially strong. When people moved to the Pacific Northwest, the awe-inspiring beauty of the area, the bounty, really made the colonists, I guess you would say, awestruck once again. And people that have lived here now for a while, different generations, they also feel that connection to the land. And to me personally, it's very curious to see that wherever you come from, there's something that's going on here that really feeds you, feeds your soul, feeds your body. This is my interpretation. Can you explain why that could be happening?
Well, when I was young, I heard an elder talking to some non-Indians, and she said that when the Creator placed us here, that He placed us here in the richest area. We had our people slept in the finest furs. We lived in the great houses surrounded by art. We ate the freshest seafood. We could just go outside and gather everything that we needed for food, clothing, and shelter, and not just struggle by. We had riches. Mm-hmm. The giant cedar trees became our huge longhouses and our canoes. The reeds, the cattails became our insulation inside our longhouses and mattresses to sleep on. We had the woolly dog, which was a purebred dog for all of the indigenous people from what's now called Alaska and British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon on the coast. This woolly dog had this fluffy fur that we could shear and then make into these, spin into yarn and weave into blankets and dye it beautiful colors from the earth. And we had these spectacular blankets to sleep in and to wear as shawls and as robes for ceremony and celebration. There was so much food, clothing, and shelter there to be had and made us so comfortable that we could then have extra time to create a complex civilization, complex political structure, and social and religious structure. We would invite other tribes around for ceremonies and celebration in the wintertime. And then we would gift them all food and clothing and just great amounts of gifts. And that's why it's called potlatch, potlatch ceremony. So, the amount of everything here to be had, you couldn't starve here. You couldn't be cold here there was shade to be had. The cedar tree, we call it shabalat, means dry underneath. And so you could be there in the shade, under the hot sun or under the rain. Everything is enveloping you and just giving. Mm-hmm. So the Creator placed us here for a reason, and we know that.
The landscape is rich. There's so much happening. We could have a conversation about climate change, and we feel that here. We feel the things that are really, and off, our neighbors to the north, even more so, to the south, it's happening every day. But we seem to be protected right now. We have the ocean, we have the mountains. There's changes, but we seem to be fine for a while. That's just climate. But we started having a conversation about community.
Right.
During your presentation that people will see, you closed with the reality that just a few years ago, there was only 120 Suquamish left. And if something like COVID would have happened, there might not be any.
Correct.
And you also spoke about tribes that are no longer here, communities that are no longer here. We are a tribal people as human beings, and that connection is the thing that I find fills us in a way that money, status, nothing else will. And I'm curious, how did the community stay together under that kind of pressure? What were the things that helped you? Obviously, we know the story of drugs and alcohol and suicide that has driven through indigenous communities because of that disconnection from the land and from everything. It was a huge disruptor. But now, 2023, you told us some really powerful stories about education, about support for the community, whether they live in a reservation or not. But I'm curious if you could speak a little bit, Barbara, about what was the plan and how is it going? How did you stay together?
So there's a couple things, and I would say, reaching back to our ancestors, that idea of hospitality was incredibly important then, and it's still important now. So having a relationship with all the people around us, Suquamish, other tribes, non-Indians, is incredibly important. That our hospitality is welcoming all of the people around us, learning about what's important to us, what's important to them. I could be a storyteller, or our politicians can be out there speaking, but sometimes there's non-Indians who won't hear what we're saying, but they'll hear what you're saying if you carry our message. They'll listen to another non-Indian carry the message. So that's why we must have allies. So there's contemporary issues that are also thousands of years old. Sustainability is an issue right now that we're all very concerned about. It's a new word, but it's not a new concept. Our longhouses and our communities, we're living in sustainability. Having been separated from that by no choice of our own, but then remembering it and bringing it forward was very important. So through these issues, whether it's climate change you mentioned, it absolutely affects us, because while we eat clams and oysters and mussels and shellfish of all kinds, ocean acidification is very dangerous, and it is happening to our place. During the Depression that affected all people around us, it didn't affect us as much because white people weren't hiring natives anyway, so we didn't have any jobs to lose. But we still knew how to gather all of our seafoods. But now, if ocean acidification continues, we could lose that, and that's not a little thing. That's a food source for us that we also share with all of the non-Indians around us. So having those issues of sustainability and climate change, ocean acidification, any of these threats to anyone, to any of the plant people, to any of the animal people, is a threat to all of the people on the earth. And so we are in this together, and we need to be in it together with, whether that's scientists or architects or storytellers or politicians. We all need to be in it together, and that is what's holding us. Is we have to talk these issues. We have to find the solutions that are ancient and that are contemporary, and do it together with all of our neighbors. We still believe the plant people and the animal people are smarter than us humans, and we need them.
What are some of the lessons that you might be able to share with other communities, and how you came to understand that this community needs to stay strong, that it needs to stay together? And this is more like a broader human perspective, because the things that we're confronting as human beings, the squabbles that different countries and communities are having right now are like tempest in a teapot compared to ocean acidification and all of these other things that are coming at us. How does your community realize, come together and like, okay, I know that this family and this family are not be getting along right now, but this is a much bigger problem. Right. How do we come together to make that?
So during COVID, we learned a lot. We are, as a community, or as a tribal community, we were used to coming together at least once every couple of weeks as many people who could fit in a building to talk about the Suquamish tribal governmental issues as possible. It would be like your town hall or state government or whatever, but we're an actual nation, and every 2 weeks there would be the tribal council, and many people would come together. In our indigenous ways, our form of government is called having a say, and every person in the room would have a say. And if the meeting lasted 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 3 days, that's how long it lasted for everybody to have a say. COVID happened, and we were all in our houses. And so the tribal government got as many laptops out to the students and the families with students in them, and then to elders, and then to everybody possible. And we're hooking up Wi-Fi systems and continuing to have the meetings. And then we found that Suquamish tribal members anywhere, even far-flung distances, would come together in Zoom and stay longer and have these and stay more often. We thought that this was going to be a downfall of us, the lack of technology, or the use of technology. But we got it together, and there is still now we continue our tribal council meetings or any meetings, any gatherings we have in person and on Zoom, so that any of our people can come in. Now, we also work with our county government, Kitsap County, and the different cities around us, because there is a racism problem. There truly is. And so with our counties and our local cities, we have what's called community dialogues on Zoom. And through there, we're telling stories of why this tribal program works and how non-Indians can volunteer to get to know us, or how this, our tribal school works, and how retired professionals can come and be mentors to students, or here's these ways to volunteer in the tribal community today to get to know us better, so we're not a scary, mysterious place. You see the sign on the road that says you're now entering the Suquamish Reservation. It doesn't say stop. You're going to be searched and turn around. We're welcoming, and we want people to know us, and we want to share our culture and our stories and our contemporary ways today. We have 15 profitable businesses, and we employ, the tribal government probably employs almost 500 people, and then our 15 businesses probably employ over 1,000 people. That's more people than there are Suquamish tribal members, so a lot of those are non-Indians who get to know us through that. We educate our employees to who we are when they're new with us, and we re-educate them ongoing throughout their time with us, so they really get to know who their employers are, who these people are.
How do you keep the cultural artifacts or language, the representations of your culture that could be under threat? Obviously, we're speaking English. We're not speaking the traditional language. We're also, clothing, music, art forms. How do you, because that's your culture. Mm-hmm. If you lose your language, you lose your culture. How do you keep that growing? How do you move that to the next generation and make sure it doesn't get too watered down?
So we, as soon as we had our own, what's called self-determination, that started with President Nixon. Well, he's like an interesting character to the non-Indians. To us, he's somewhat of a hero because he signed into law for the whole United States self-determination. And that meant Indian Health Service and the Bureau of Indian Affairs got out of our way, and we could make our own decisions with our own money, how we wanted to spend them and how we wanted to run our own programs. And from that time in the 70s forward, we've been, having our own businesses, making decisions with our own hard dollars and creating the programs that best serve our people. And immediately education was the most important one. So we started with summer schools, and where it's our own summer schools for our own kids with our own people, and then sending our students to college, whatever college they wanted to go to, or trade school, hoping they come back and bring that with them. But it doesn't matter. A Suquamish tribal member walking the face of the earth anywhere educated is a benefit to us. And then we started with our early learning center, which is a year-round early learning center and daycare where over 200 children are taught our culture, our language, and our ways. And then our Chief Kitsap Academy, which is middle school and high school. And that's been running for, a couple decades now. And they're taught the language and the culture, singing, dancing, weaving, all that, in addition to all the academics that they need. Now, I'm going to say that my first formal education was from my elders, learning my stories. And those kids, our kids now, a whole generation, they're now in their 20s and 30s, have been learning that in our own tribal schools. Mm-hmm. So that's a way. We also have what we call coastal jam, which is, it's not what you put on your bread and biscuits. It's bringing the drummers and singers and dancers together regularly in our House of Awakened Culture, which is our longhouse, and where we sing and drum and dance and celebrate anything or just the act of singing, drumming, and dancing. It could be someone's ceremony, getting a name, or somebody's birth or marriage or birthday or what have you. We just had one where this young woman and young man who are now in their young 30s recognized all the foster parents that they had and their birth parents and wrapped them each in blankets and told the stories of their lives.
It's beautiful.
And through music. And because the young woman is a professional musician now and speaks the language. And the young man, he had some struggles with drugs and alcohol, but is now 9 months clean and sober. And so they stood up, every one of the people in our community who were their foster families and their birth parents, and wrapped them in blankets, and they were singing and drumming and dancing all. So there's 1,000 reasons to celebrate inside our culture with our language, with our songs, dances, and stories. And we do that. We find those ways.
It's a beautiful story. Thank you. So we're here at a festival in Fort Warden. Our friends at STG put on Think Fest. It's a lot of different artists from all over, some from all over the world, some from different genres. Some other people here that this might be their first time in Fort Warden. They might be here for a while, but they don't know any of the indigenous history here. If you had a moment to talk to them, which you do now, what would you tell them about this area?
I would say that we're Canoe nations. We're Suquamish is just one, but there's many all up and down the coast. Wherever you are on the coast, if you see a place that's like just this smooth, nice beach that you could pull up your kayak, it's probably a place that you could pull up a canoe. And if it was big enough for many canoes, then that was probably a village site. And so there isn't a place that they could go that wasn't a village site or a place for us to gather, hunt, gather our foods and our medicines and all that. So every place that they stepped is sacred. Every place that they feel a special affinity for is that place. It's that place for you. It's that place for us. It's that place for all of us. And again, those plant people and animal people. I would say that the generation younger than me, so I'm a grandmother now, so my children and then my grandchildren have more of the Lushootseed language than I ever had. Mm-hmm. And I had a bit more than my dad, who was prevented from it. And so it's all coming back, and it's all coming back through self-determination and our ability to operate sustainable businesses and share, which is what Suquamish is all about, hospitality and sharing. And so to look for the tribes, go out of your way, drive down those little long paths to get to the Quileute tribe or the Hoh River tribe or the Makah tribe. Right now this weekend is having Makah days. Go to Chief Seattle days. Look, go out of your way to find us, any little tribe, and enjoy what we have to share with you, because we certainly do.
Thank you. You brought up an interesting point with your father and how he was not allowed to speak the language and represent the culture. the horrors of the boarding schools and the religious institutions around them is being brought to light right now, gratefully. There's a lot of trauma that's going on there. Do your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, your children, are they understanding this? Are they processing this reality that happened? And I'm just curious, how are they actually bringing that?
For my family, because my father was who he was, and I would say that he was a noble inside our community. So he was one of more than a dozen kids, only 3 that lived to adulthood, and he was taken to boarding school at Chemawa. When he turned 18 in 1941 and graduated and came home, there was even less people than when he left, through the plagues and the actual genocidal attempts. And because he graduated in 1941, and then in that December, we all know what happened. And so he attempted to join the military. So there was only 3 that survived of the more than 12 kids. There was only 3 that survived, him, his brother, and his sister. He attempted to join the military immediately into any branch, and he was 6'2", but he was so slight because of malnourishment at the boarding schools that he said he had to eat as many clams as he could every single day and keep attempting to enlist until finally, 6 months after Pearl Harbor, he was able to enlist. And then he spent most of his time in France in battles and all that in France, and was in the invasion of Normandy on Omaha Beach, which was the worst in terms of fatalities for Americans. And so then he spent some time, he got shot up, and he spent some time in a French hospital, and then back to the United States. When he was finally released from a military hospital in the United States and back to his community, there was even fewer of not only Lawrence's, but of tribal members. I mean, very few. And so he got on tribal council, he get elected. He got on tribal council, and he started doing everything he can with the veterans who were Suquamish and the others who had, we call them invaders. Colonists is one word. We call them invaders, who came in and took over most of the reservation, and then created the Legion Hall for the local area, and through them started doing fundraising for things like Chief Seattle Days, which was an event that started in 1911, but then was stopped through the war years. We say the war years, but it didn't start back up until 1962, when my dad was chairman on the council, on Suquamish Tribal Council. And as that, being the chairman of the Suquamish Tribal Council, from a tiny tribe who had no businesses and no even actual buildings to have meetings in, whoever was chairman, your home was where everybody went. So he then had to educate the local cities, the local counties, the state of Washington, and the federal government as to who we were. Fishing and clam digging were the most vocation that people had, and so he educated them on why it was important to allow natives to put their boats in the water at docks and boat ramps and marinas, which no non-Indians would. So our small tribe was getting smaller because they had to put their boats in anywhere, any unsafe place that they could, and then dying in the process. Mm-hmm. So he finally was able to secure funding to build a boat ramp in Suquamish. So in 1962, that was under construction, and with federal dollars, it was under construction, and they started Chief Seattle Days back again, and he died of a brain hemorrhage. So, So he was 39, so he did all of those amazing things in 39 years. And so the next year, the tribe paid for a local artist to carve a memorial pole in his honor. So there's a memorial pole on the waterfront in Suquamish in my dad's honor, and the boat ramp is named the Charles Lawrence Memorial Boat Ramp. And that Chief Seattle Days in 1963 was in his honor. And some of the things that he started in terms of having relationships with other government agencies and educating them into who we were and what was important, life and death important, and why things that we needed, basic human rights and kindnesses and hospitalities extended to be able to just be a fisherman or a clam digger. Those things happen, and the following tribal councils continued those outreach into the non-Indian world to keep them aware of who we are and that we're still here and we still need these very basic things. So much so was our effort to educate the non-Indians that our current chairman, when President Obama was our president, he appointed Leonard Forsman, our current chairman, to the National Council on Historic Preservation. So we are, even though we're a small tribe, we have a very high profile because we care about everything that's important to all of these small tribes and our, again, I'm going to say the plant people and the animal people who are being neglected.
It feels like that sense of an ecosystem. It's the only way we're going to be able to get through this. Thank you. We're thinking about this a lot lately because we could be, I'm not a grandparent, I'm a parent. He's a parent, but I know that my grandparents, great-grandparents were fully into grandparent at my age. So it's an interesting place to be where you're a mentor and automatically you're a mentor when you're grandparents. But from your community's perspective, what does that mean to be an elder? What is expected of you? And what do you expect?
So what's expected of us as elders in our tribe is to be mentors to the younger generation, to hold up the values of our tribe, so that being a steward, teaching the teachings that we got from our elders down to our younger people, and to be, so if we want to be respected, we have to be respectful. So there will be situations that I'm in with non-Indians who say what they say, and because I'm a light skin, I have to go, okay, I can fight this battle right now, or I can represent my tribe in a good way, so that this person who seems to think that we're, whatever, a casino tribe with unending money, or we sell too many fireworks, and, whatever their issue is with us, I can represent us in a good way, so that there's education brought over to that person, so that they will come to our events or come to our museum and learn something else, or walk away with, I didn't think of that. So making allies, making friends. So my responsibility as an elder is for the younger generations under me, so that they have all the knowledge that I have, and to our non-Indian neighbors around us, to build allies. And I'm going to say it as often as I can, is our teachers are the plant people and the animal people, and we have to listen to them.
Thank you. Okay, can we have you two have a conversation?
So this is my granddaughter, Ellie Abraham, and she's also a Suquamish Tribal member, and I thought it was important for you to hear some of the Lushootseed language, which her generation, the generation after me, my children and my grandchildren each have more and more language because of our decisions we made in our community about teaching our language. Ellie, could you introduce yourself in the Lushootseed language for these folks?
Hashlahel Twal Galapu Galapu Isha Ditsiaya Chalap Lila Abraham Seedsta Suqabs Chud to all Chud Doof Suqab Douglas Abraham Teedsta at Teed Bod Palawan Teed Bod Bryna Lawrence Seedsta at Seeds Koi Suqabs Teeds Koi Joe Ives Teedsta at Tud Sapa Skalalam Tud Sapa Barbara Lawrence Seedsta at Seed Kaya Suqabs Teed Kaya. Good day to all of you. You are all my relations. My name is Elieli Abraham. I am from the Suquamish Tribe. My father's name is Douglas Abraham. He is from the island nation of Palau. My mother's name is Bryna Lawrence. She is from the Suquamish Tribe. My late grandfather's name is Joe Ives. He is from the Skalalam Tribe. My grandmother's name is Barbara Lawrence, and she is from the Suquamish Tribe.
in each of her sentences when she's introducing herself, and this is gone back thousands of years in our culture, you say your name and what village you're from, your parents' names, what village they're from, not only their names, but there's a preface that says they're alive in this world or they're alive in the spirit world. And then your grandparents, are they alive in this world or the spirit world, what village they're from, and it goes back as far as you can document. And so that, I think the Lushootseed language is a very beautiful language, but that's basically what she said. It's geographic information, it's genealogical information, and it's who's alive in this world and who's alive in the spirit world. And so that's the way our people would introduce ourselves. She's, as you can see, she's very comfortable speaking the Lushootseed language, and that comes to her because since she was little, she was in the Suquamish Early Learning Center learning the language, and then in our before and after school programs learning the language, in our community gatherings learning the language, and then in the Chief Kitsap Academy where she's learning the language as well. So it's coming back. This generation has more than her parents and more than my generation and more than my father's generation. It really ties you to your place, and it really, and every possible opportunity to introduce yourselves, such as Canoe Journey, we do that. So she's had a lot of practice since she was very little speaking the language. And I mentioned Canoe Journeys. When the state of Washington turned 100 years old, they were planning their birthday, and they looked around for how to celebrate the state of Washington's birthday. I was a young radical, wannabe radical militant, and I was mouthing off at every opportunity. So what, they're 100 years old. We have baskets older than that. So what, they're 100 years old. Are they going to be like an adults and treat us, their neighbors, like adults? And the word got back to the governor, who had his assistant call my office and ask if I would be on the Centennial Commission to plan the state's birthday to guarantee the tribe's participation. And from then, in 1989, when the state turned 100 years old, and there was a paddle to Seattle, where as many canoes as there was, which was like a dozen, gathered in Suquamish and paddled to Suquamish in a celebration of the state's birthday. But really for us, it was celebrating having access to old growth trees, to carve canoes, to be on the water with other people, and to begin bringing all that back, making cedar bark hats, singing songs, carving paddles, being ourselves in our canoes on our waters, singing our songs and being Suquamish, or being Ho River, or being Makah, or being Clallam, or whatever. And so this is this accidental confluence of the state turning 100 years old and our desire to have our culture came at the right time. And since then, there's been a canoe journey every summer, and they've just gotten exponentially bigger. More canoes, more people, more language, more songs, more dances, more potlatching, more gifts, more young people knowing who they are. And so that accident of the state's birthday in 1989 and to now, we just finished Canoe Journey for this summer. There was 11,000 tribal people from what's the western coast of Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon, all that came together on these waters, all speaking our languages and singing our songs and being who we are. So it's only getting better. There was 120 canoes and 11,000 people who converged at Muckleshoot this summer. Ellie, how do you feel speaking your language?
At first, when I started learning, maybe back in elementary, it was hard. But now as I keep speaking it more and more, it just gets easier and it feels right speaking it. Even though sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but it feels right speaking. I don't know, it kind of just feels natural. Like I'm supposed to be. Each day I just use some words. I don't need to speak full sentences, but I can just replace English words with Lushootseed words, and it just feels right.
When Canoe Journey happens, what is your favorite thing?
Probably protocol.
You want to tell the folks what protocol is? Because they probably don't know.
Okay, so when we land our canoes to where we're going to be, or like where we're heading to for the day. At like the end of the day, usually at night, each tribe or each canoe family, they come up and they sing and they introduce themselves and dance for like 2 or 3 hours. And it's just fun to watch.
Barbara, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with you and meeting you again. I want to thank Rain Shadow Recordings. I want to thank STG, our amazing crew, my fabulous co-founder, John Goodfellow, Paul Mailman, James Drage, and everybody here. Nelly, thank you so much. Gratitude to Sama, Sales Music and Art. Acting best. Woo!